What's going on, everyone? This is Reggie Haynes, and you are tuned in to another edition of the True Kings podcast. I am your co-host, Reggie Haynes, and I am here alongside of the other co-host of the show, King Ugly Truth. Now, we've recently talked about entitlement. We've also talked about mental health within the melanated, or as they say in the West, Black community. But today we're going to talk about healing and how is that looked at by others when men are trying to heal. Basically, does healing actually make a man softer, quote unquote, or does it take more strength to confront your issues? And before we get into this topic, we always allow our co-host, King Ugly Truth, to, give a shout out to the listeners. And I'm going to do the same. So without further ado, King Ugly Truth, the floor is yours.
Oh, what's going on, everybody? It is the other co-host, Ugly Truth King, back with another episode, and I hope you guys really enjoy this one, man. This one here, I'm not gonna, well, I can sort of personal, but I definitely can't wait to dive into the topic.
Sounds good, brother. And I can't wait to dive into it as well. And for all of those people who have tuned in to our previous episodes, we thank you so much. Be on the lookout for more content. And also don't forget to check us out on our social media platforms. That is King Ugly Truth or at Ugly Truth. And then also me at The Real Reggie Haynes. And don't forget that you are tuned in to the RHTV Podcast Network and the RHTV Podcast Instagram page is where you can get sneak peeks all the time. So, King Ugly Truth, we're going to get right into it. Does healing actually make a man, quote unquote, softer, or does it take more strength to comfort your issues? The floor is yours.
So I think the soft is an opinion. I would even go to that comparison as far as the healing process. I will definitely say it takes strength, right? A type of strength that I would say for individuals that was weakened, metaphorically speaking, just like, going to the gym, people want to build muscle for, whatever reasons, personal reasons, aesthetic reasons. And it's something you definitely have to build up to, to understand. And then how does that, apply, to your life going forward? Um, but yeah, as far as the soft part, I think I think it's one of those things for men who are probably nervous as far as what that looks like to them. So instead of doing the actual work, I'm gonna just label as being soft. I'm not gonna do that, whatever, right? But not, really diving into the benefits of how, it can for yourself personally, help grow and give better understanding and clarity, so as far as your position, you know, in the world and personally with other people, that you might, have relationships with. But yeah, I think it definitely takes strength on that, King Reggie.
Oh, thank you so much for that, King Ugly Truth. You went straight to the point on that one. Beautiful take. And I'm going to agree. I know that I'm gonna just give an example. Back into the beginning of 2023, and I'm glad I have him on the show with us, our co-host here, King Ugly Truth. He was there for me whenever I went through, and I'm not ashamed to say it, I went through my suicidal moment, breakdown. And what happened was there were a lot of people, I posted a suicide post, and a lot of people were coming at me. A lot of people who were part of the African pro-black community were coming at me, calling me all types of negative names. King Ugly Truth was one of those people that was like, Reggie, just talk to me, man. There's nothing wrong with you feeling this way. Talk to me. Let it out. Express yourself. Come out with your emotions. And that was a beautiful thing, because when you're surrounded by a whole bunch of people, whether it be women or men, who are telling you that you're weak and you're all of these negative things because you're having a mental breakdown, that made matters worse. But it was the voice of this brother and a few others who basically said, like, no, everything's going to be all right, and express yourself. I want to hear you out. I want to hear what you're going through, not so I can go back and gossip, but so I can help you. And I feel like it's a beautiful thing to where we, as men, we go through our healing phases and we have other people that support us. So my thing is to where, no, it doesn't make you soft at all. I feel like it definitely makes you stronger, because you're taking care of something that, if it gets overlooked, it's going to become a bigger and bigger problem. And I always say this too. The weakest people to me are the ones who go out into this world and they have this persona, like, just like this negative approach on everything. Like, the spirituality of evil has overtaken them and led them to be just this evil, inhumane coward. But the most phenomenal people, the most powerful, are those who are happy, who are positive, and don't let evil get the best of them. Don't get me wrong. Evil can creep in, but it doesn't overtake you and lead you to overlook the true strength, which is the good that is within you. So I want to say thank you, King Ugly Truth, and all the other people who have helped me through my mental breakdown moments. And just know that there are tons of people out there like myself who are always going to be there to help a fellow brother who's going through his healing phase and who needs to heal, because I know we go through a lot. Our queens do too. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that we need to be competitive. We just need to, help each other heal and progress from there. So yeah, healing is definitely a way to become a stronger and a better phenomenal being, let alone man. And I'm proud of all the kings who are taking the right and respectful measures in doing so. And by respectful and measures, I mean not taking your anger out on someone else, using them as a punching bag in order for you to heal. I'm talking about allowing people to truly help you, trust them because they're trustworthy, and healing and the respectful way, and progressing from there. So yeah, no, King, I agree with you. It takes strength to confront your issues, and it's better, if you have people that support you along the way, genuinely. So yeah, I agree with you on that one, King. So piggybacking on that one, or excuse me, going back to this particular topic, why do you feel like, King Ugly Truth, that there are a lot of men out there who just don't, go through the healing process? I know you spoke about it a little bit earlier, but if you could dive a little bit deeper into it, why do you think a lot of men are afraid to heal, or just, if it's not fear, they just choose not to? The floor is yours.
Okay, so let me come from this perspective. I'm glad you brought up that example. Um, so let me kind of piggyback and give you some framework as far as like, why your story along with mine's how this is an example of alignment, right? So so again, we're talking about men, labeled as being soft as far as healing process, right? The thing for me to make a long story short is that I feel like a lot of men don't know what like camaraderie is and like as far as male affection goes, right? And a lot of us just, I can't speak on a woman's perspective, but I can say just in similarity that you're giving tools for survival, but you're not taught to like to understand, to sit in your emotions and to process that, right? So we're taught to run. So there's no built of emotional intelligence, right? Which creates a weak mind. For me, uh, nothing against, my father personally, but he wasn't, consistently in my life. My example of a father figure was my Uncle James. And for me, it was just taking the time of giving, showing, emotions. Besides, a simple task of like tying my shoe, but it's just the thing of like taking the time to show me something because this is something that's going to benefit me, right? Because as a child, you played football, we run around little boys and whatnot. Last thing I want to do is trip over my shoelace, right? So that was always like the step of like, oh, okay, this person actually cares about me, right? Showing me this, showing me that. And then it was like later in life, just expressing, how he felt, for himself, some of his demons and whatnot, and what he do to process it, and whatnot. Now, I could be transparent, a lot of, the ways he did it wasn't always healthy. And I wish what I knew now, which, was unfortunate, that I wish I could talk to him better how I can talk now. But, unfortunately he already, transitioned. But a lot of times for him, like we spoke, I think in the last episode, there was a little bit of a substance abuse, alcohol or whatnot. But lo and behold, later in life, he actually overcame that and got his stuff cleaned up. And so getting to my point, it was just having that basic foundation of knowing that, okay, he's a man, I'm a young man growing up. He has feelings, I have feelings. And instead of keeping them bottled up, saying, I can converse with someone. I can, get built up from another person who might have had similar, energy or whatnot, to help me repair or give me the tools that I didn't have, so I can start my healing journey, right? So the instant I woke up that morning and saw your message, Reggie, I was like, huh? Because me, I see patterns. that was something I saw that came off very outside of your character. So I was like, the first thing was like, "Are you all right?" Right now, anybody who knows me, who's really like in my circle, that's a natural thing that I do. You know, what I'm saying I check up on people. You know, it's not about needing anything and wanting anything. It's just to make sure, hey, do you have the shoes you need before you leave the day? You know, this and this and that. You know, and a lot of time that's all a person needs. You know, just to remind them. You know, hey, to stay focused, whatever. Right. But but yeah, once I seen that, man, I knew right then. Let me get right into it. And I think that's one thing I've learned along with my uncle, and then the type of circle that I have, that I can say that I have healing powers, right? And this ain't even to be funny, because it's something I would say that's serious, because it's the first thing that a lot of people, for me, tools they don't have is identifying. And I knew there was a problem. That was like a cry for help without directly asking for it. Another thing, I don't think you actually knew. I could have brought up to you, I can't remember, but I know you had a lot of people that I didn't even know, that I guess is that, just how we interact, with the stories, you talking about my brand and talking about your brand, that I had some of your people from IG reaching out to me. Hey, is he okay? I said, let me check, what I'm saying, I'm going through, whatever, right? And then, again, going forward, what I'm saying, we end up conversing, talking about it, and not to get into any deep details, but everything worked out well. I'm not gonna lie, that was the first for me. That was the first for me, right? As far as like being able to reach out and and talk to someone who at that state, to be honest with you. Now I know in high school there was a situation. I knew a guy named Francisco. I knew from elementary when I came back to Texas the second time, and I've known this guy since elementary school all the way to high school. Mind you, this is our what, junior year, and I didn't even know he had a sister the whole time. But that was honestly my first story of hearing someone uh having a going through suicide. And the crazy thing about that story, man, this is why, like, I have this thing with me with no regret, because I want people to be mindful that each day, we always say this, right? It's not promised, right? It's not guaranteed. And this is why I don't have any regret. I make sure I have all the right tensions, good and even bad, that this is what I want to do, for the day, right? So what I'm saying is that I spoke to this guy, right? Mind you, we going through high school, right? I ain't seen this cat since, you get to high school, it's big, everybody got different classes, got different things they got going on. But just one day we bumped into each other outside, and it was nice to see him, right? I haven't seen him in a while. And we was like, oh yeah, we have to link up, blah, 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 right? A week later, I had a class with his sister, right? To find out that this dude had, she found him, coming from school. And I'm just like, wow, I didn't know how to feel with that. I mean, I wasn't like upset, but it's something I just didn't understand, right? Even with yourself, I didn't understand, like, dang, how could somebody, like, get to that point? But then I know in the last episode I explained about, going through seasonal depression, right? When I was like, gaining weight, eating excessively. So I'm like, dang, okay, so we all, even though I can say I know I'm very strong mentally, but you gotta understand, like, when you overtrain, just like in the gym, that's just doing work. That's just all that progress of strength. It's just winding it down because you're just training too much, too much, too much. It's like a lot of us, we have so much weight of, if it's family, work, personal things, and we don't ever talk about it, or find. And I'm not going to use the word like distractions, 'cause I think that's the worst. But I actually did sit in that emotion and figured, okay, what can I do to, I guess, de-escalate all the commotion going on. Because even with myself now, with my t-shirt, business, still thriving and everything, and then working and being a family man, and friend, like, it could take a toll on a person, right? Especially, with the time frame of everything. And this is why I try not to, just do too much and just relax and just let things be as they be, but still have that control, to where when something feels like it's gonna be too much, my thing is now just say no, or I'll do that later. Not trying to cram everything, soak everything all at once, because it's like I can't do everything. I'm only one person, right? And at the end of the day, like, there are people who depend on me to a degree and look forward to me, but I still have to have that reserve for myself at all times. I hope I'm not losing you guys on it. I just want to be able to, just to build up, as far as like off of Reggie's story, and with my story, and how alignment plays a big role in in our lives. And you don't realize, I mean, because a lot of us think, if we make money we can fix the problem. No, it's we all know this by now. We should know this by now, that money does not fix everything. It's just a tool. That's all it is. And it is so important, you know, again, to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves mentally. And again, we have the type of friends that, like as King Reggie said, that when we have a situation, whether you identify as a crisis or not, that we ask questions, we figure out, hey, are you okay? You good? Because a lot of times, man, the problem is right in front of your face, and a lot of us we ignore it because we take, a lot of us take advantage of the fact, oh well, he's still posting, he's still doing this, so he had to be fine. Like, what is he complaining about? We have no idea. I don't assume anything. I don't. That's just never been on my resume. I don't want to assume anything. If I want to know something, I'm gonna ask. It's that simple, you know. Uh, but if you could remind me again, King Razor, make sure I'm not getting too far off topic. What was another part of your question I can answer real quick?
No. You did a phenomenal job of really answering it. And you were basically we were. It was asked, why do you think it's so hard for men to to come out and express that they want to start healing? Why do you think it's so hard for them to go through the healing process? That was the question.
Okay, so yeah, basically, I just kind of give you guys a backstory as far as like again how me and Reggie, because like I said, I've been knowing Reggie even before this point, but we always had conversations, right? So again, nobody, I'm pretty sure himself, he didn't see that coming, right? So, um, yeah. So this in a nutshell, um, ask that one more time, bro. I'm sorry, because I'm not getting emotional, bro. But I'm just proud, man. Honestly, of where we at right now in life, bro. You know
Me too,
that
King.
that's
Me too.
Yeah,
And
but
I'm glad
say it one more time so I can lock it in real quick again.
no
'Cause
problem. And
I
I'm
know
glad.
what I want to say.
I got you, King. No problem. No problem. Proud of you too, brother. The question is why do you think it's so hard for men to step into that healing process?
So I guess like you stated, yeah. So I did answer part of it. Again, a lot of men are not given the basic tools, and although I thought as a child, I had them, but I think society has a way of like conforming people in a way if you allow it, and I'm very clear on allow because a lot of times, like people, how they say that the phrase misery loves company. And I feel like a lot of times too, if you're not conforming to something that people that they can relate to, then it automatically puts you as an outcast, right? So men on a, I guess, stereotypical level, we're supposed to be strong, we're supposed to look physically strong, we're not supposed to ask questions, we just get things done, boom, 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 right? It's almost like how I see it metaphorically, it's like being a crash dummy. Like you're doing stuff without any substance, with any purpose or real reason, not none of your own, but for others, right? So it's almost like you got yourself as a pawn. So this is one of the reasons why on my arm, on my right arm, because I had room on that arm, why I have I have the word king on my arm. Now this is nothing to set a status, once any other people. Let me get that out the way. This is a personal thing for me to remind myself of my own personal status and how I see myself around. That doesn't take anything from King Reggie or any other people who I consider friends or family, because King, Reggie himself, he's a king. You know, the friends I had the great times to visit with, I grew up with, those guys are kings. So don't get it twisted. This is nothing to separate anybody else. But more likely for me, it's just a mindset. A lot of young men um didn't have the tools or were given the tools to have. So I think it's just easy to, like I said, to mask something with something weaker as if it has no benefits because you don't know what it is. You don't know how it works. You know what I'm saying? If I answer the question.
No, that's perfectly said, perfectly answered, King. And for all those people out there who are listening, I thank you again, King Ugly Truth, for being there, not judging, being respectful, and just know it's always mutual. And like King Ugly Truth said, it came out of nowhere for me too. And what I tell people all the time, they're like, Reggie, when you broke through that, what was it? What how do you look at it? First thing I did was I sincerely apologized to everybody who I had affected, in that situation. The other thing I did was I felt like it was me breaking from the old Reggie into the new one. And with this new Reggie, it's like, don't allow anything in this world to ever get you to that point again of not wanting to be here anymore. And after that, started living life. Don't get me wrong, it was a lot of trials and tribulations, but like King Ugly Truth said, he's like, man, I'm just proud of where we are. And it's just one of those things to where, man, I started finding true happiness after that. You know, a lot of things that other people probably outside looking in consider were bad after that moment took place. I looked at it as, you know what? Hey, just move on and progress. And that's what I've been doing. So again, King Ugly Truth, thank you so much. And all the other people who are always looking out for our people without judgment, without any type of negative agenda behind it. And yeah, man, I know when it comes in regards to us as men, healing is a beautiful thing. And if anybody doesn't want to help you with that healing process, then those are people that you shouldn't include in that moment in time or just in your healing process in general. That's my take on it. But it should never be something that's hard, especially when you have a good support system. And if you feel like you don't, you should always be a person that's encouraging yourself to heal, because you know for a fact it's the best thing for you to do in order for you to progress. You guys have tuned in to the True Kings podcast. We're going to take our first commercial break. You guys are also tuned in on the RHTV Podcast Network. You guys stay tuned as we're talking about healing with our men within the melanated, or as they say in the West, Black or African community. We'll be right back after these messages. You guys stay tuned. The ugly truth is, you hate me. You hate me because of the movies I made, that I've dominated in sports from time to time. You hate that I've been on this earth for 3 decades and never sold my soul to any industry. The ugly truth is, you hate me because I'm not a slave. And hopefully, you're not a slave. Contact the King to get your Ugly Truth apparel today. And we're back on the RHTV Podcast Network, and you guys are tuned in to the True Kings podcast. And I am your co-host, Reggie Haynes, alongside our other co-host here, King Ugly Truth. And today we've been talking about, does healing actually make a man quote unquote softer, or does it take more strength to confront your issues? And without further ado, we're going to allow King Ugly Truth to state his final words regarding this topic. King Ugly Truth, the floor is yours.
Okay, so I'm gonna say this in closing to all men out here, because I've talked to a lot of young men. Uh, since I've been told by some of them, being funny, I'm unk now, whatever, right? Because I'm over my 40s, right? Still in my lower 40s, but I'm in my 40s, right? But I take a lot of pride in myself, that I have a lot of young men who feel comfortable to tell me their story and how they feel about, themselves and whatnot, right? I feel like one of my jobs for my purpose is to deconstruct and reconstruct uh power of self, right? Because again, like I said, a lot of us are just programmed just to go to work and provide, right? Which is fine, right? But what I bring, the tension I bring to these young men is that, what do you want, right? And I'm not talking about like in a selfish way, as far as like, oh, I want a lot of money, and materialistic. Like, what do you want for yourself? How do you envision life to be for you, not just what you do for other people, right? Because again, you can't have a relationship with anybody outside of yourself if you don't have a good relationship with yourself. It's a reflection. Trust me. A lot of people try to, do it their way, trying to not, I guess not do the basic, but if you don't have love for yourself, understanding for yourself, how can you give it to anybody else? You see what I'm saying? Like, you it's almost like having a GPS on, and you know where you're going, but there's no direction, right? And that alone gets a lot of these young men to think, and that's what I want people to think. I want you to think about what you do day to day. That's the first step, right? And again, a lot of men, even myself, want go to the gym to look physically strong, right? But a lot of time that can be, fugazi, because it's like it looked like it, but then like the somebody bigger than you, it's like, dang, what's all that work for? But when you have that mind strength, that type of radiant energy is way beyond strong that any, you know, 255, 300 bench press, or $400, if I said $400, 400 squat, saying can do, right? So don't get me wrong, like I go in the gym, I do my work, but the real prize is strengthening my mind, because all the other stuff as I'm aging, of course, is going to deteriorate, right? It's slowing down. But if I keep my mind sharp, there's nothing that we cannot do, we can't conquer, that we can't have, right? And the main thing is having happiness, in life. Even with all the happiness going on, like that's what's important to me. I always tell guys this, like going to work, cool, making money, cool, traveling with loved ones is cool, but to wake up and look at yourself in the mirror and be happy every day is the ultimate prize. Again, some others might disagree, but I don't want much. All the other stuff that's out here in the world, I know it's very accessible, right? But again, this is where you have to find out what aligns with you every day, so you can sustain this happiness not only for yourself, but others around you. As Reggie said, with his situation, he apologized, and I'm pretty sure, unfortunately, he had a lot of negative feedback, which is sad because again, you know, why are you angry at something that's not you? Instead of just try to understand, and that's why I was again push focus on is understanding. If you don't understand for yourself, you know, understand for other people as well, because we can easily get lost and confused, again with routine. But again, in closing, I want you guys to not be ashamed to work on your mental health, your emotional intelligence, all this other, stuff that goes, without mental. And again, as I stated before, if you don't have anybody personally that you can go to that can actually talk and listen to you, or at least listen to you, um, definitely, find, reputable people online, not just, the ones who just say I'm a doctor, no pun intended. But find somebody who can really, invest the time that really wants to help you and not just give you motivational speeches and stuff. Because personally, I can't stand motivational speeches because they just sound so generic 'cause it doesn't get to the root cause of people. And I know for some people, that it's cool, but I just think more of a personal approach has always worked for me best because, it's more focused and concentrated. But yeah, as you guys listen to this, again, even with my page is open, it's not private, along with Reggie's. If any young men out there have any issues or any kind of question, again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to say I'm a doctor, but I will listen and do the best I can to help, give you any type of resources to, you know, deem you successful. Please hit me up. And as it was said at the beginning, but I'm gonna say it again at the end. On top of Reggie said, you can reach me at on Instagram at Ugly Truth King, ugly underscore truth underscore king. If anybody have any questions or any concerns or whatnot.
And thank you so much for that, King. Thank you so much for that, King Ugly Truth. And my closing statements would be this: is that one of the best ways that I know that people can definitely break through, or men can break through, when it comes in regards to them starting off their healing process, if they haven't already, is if you have people who are in your life who are just trying to make you feel weak, soft, or negative by any means, there's nothing wrong with cutting them off, metaphorically speaking, not listening or taking into anything that they're saying, because who needs that? And I look at it like this: if I'm trying to build somebody up, right, that's constructing or constructive. But if somebody's trying to bring me down, it's like they're demolishing what we're trying to build. And if you're trying to build yourself up, you can't have somebody who's trying to demolish or diminish or be negative or tear down anything during your building and healing process. So there's nothing wrong with creating your own world to where you're focused on yourself, focused on what's the root cause of this particular thing that's leading you to, feel broken, feel down, feel negative in any way. And then another thing is to where I always look at it like this: if there's something out there that's showing me that they're not for me, I step away from it completely. And I try my best to never look back. I know on previous episodes, King Ugly Truth and myself, we talked about that. And if you guys want to check out those previous episodes, the link is going to be in the description below. But all in all, yeah, man, there's nothing wrong with you really just looking within yourself, figuring out what you need to heal from. Take your time to do so. Surround yourself by good people, good environments. And like King Ugly Truth said, when you look in that mirror every day, be proud of what you see, be happy of what you see. And, just know that everything's going to be okay and everything's going to progress from there. And you always have people like myself and King Ugly Truth to talk to. And listening is a big thing. And I'm glad to say that I'm a listener, and I have great people in my life who are listeners as well. And it's always a beautiful thing when somebody's pouring out to you for you to listen to them and give the necessary and respectable feedback to help them progress and heal from there. But again, King Ugly Truth, thank you so much for being for another episode of you being a phenomenal co-host. And for all the listeners out there, we thank you guys so much for the support. We know that it's going to be continued, and we know we got great topics coming your way. We're going to be talking about different things, talking to our elders and ancestors beyond the grave, talking about African empowerment, and also talking about the flashing of money. Where does that lead you? Is it a pro or is it a con? So you guys be on the lookout for that in the near future. Again, I am your co-host, Reggie Haynes, along with my other co-host, King Ugly Truth. And you guys have tuned in to the RHTV Podcast Network, another edition of the True Kings Podcast. And we are signing off. Peace and love.